Everyone, my name is Eric Hopkins, aka JEL. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I apologize for being a day late on my WWE weekly recap this week. I had a couple days where I had some things to come up. If you see my community tabs notes, you kind of know a couple of them. But I apologize for that. But here we are, ready to rock and roll on Wednesday morning this week for our WWE recap. So let's get into it here. Friday night SmackDown. That's kind of where we left off from last week. We had the show opening up with AJ Styles versus LA Knight, the #1 contendership match for the Cody Rhodes title at Backlash here. AJ Styles beats LA Knight in the opener. Kind of expected, as a matter of fact. It doesn't hurt LA Knight here. LA Knight got his big win at WrestleMania, so I think he's going to be just fine. But AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, a bit of a dream matchup for a lot of people, as a matter of fact. I think this could be a very underrated match, no doubt about it. AJ Styles obviously has not been utilized the best, in my opinion, over the last few years, especially under Vince McMahon. And I don't see him beating Cody Rhodes here, unfortunately. WWE Backlash a lot of years and a lot of pay-per-views in general. Sometimes you can kind of tell that the champion is not going to be dropping the belt. I mean, you never can say never. Maybe WWE pulls a complete curveball at you, and maybe they do have Cody drop the belt, but highly unlikely at this point. I think they'd be silly to do so. So what's probably going to happen here is Cody Rhodes is going to defeat AJ Styles for his first big title defense on pay-per-view. But AJ Styles is a good hand, and he's at the point in his career where he's going to help get Cody Rhodes over even further. So yeah, AJ Styles is going to have a great match with Cody Rhodes. And unfortunately, AJ is going to lose, but he's like I said, at the point in his career where he doesn't necessarily need the title to actually, further his career or anything like that. But apparently, since we got the #1 contendership now all squared away, we're going to have a big contract signing this week on SmackDown during the WWE draft. So that'll be coming up here on Friday night. So you know how wrestling contract signings always go. Definitely not going to end up be without some sort of physicality or some verbal jabs thrown at one another, no doubt. They never can go peacefully, that's for sure. It'd be kind of interesting if they actually ever booked one that was completely peaceful. I don't know if they'll ever do that, but it'd be interesting to see if just both guys come out there, shake hands, sign on the dotted line, and then leave. That's probably happened at some point in the long history of pro wrestling, but very rare nowadays for sure. So interesting to see where this goes. I'm sure it'll be pretty cool. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun match. But like I said, I don't expect Cody Rhodes to drop the belt anytime soon. So we'll see where that goes. On SmackDown, we also had the debut of the new WWE Tag Team Championships. Obviously, we've got this separation here going on, which is good going into the WWE draft, in my opinion. We've got the world titles on Raw and the WWE titles on SmackDown. Now, that could always change when it comes to the draft. Maybe they all switch brands. Maybe the WWE titles are on Raw and the world titles are on SmackDown. I don't know. But I highly doubt you're going to get world titles on the same show as a WWE title, because it just doesn't make sense to kind of mix and match those on different shows. You want to have all of them on the main shows, but since the World Tag Team Championships that were introduced last week on Raw have the red outlines to them, I imagine they'll stay on Raw as they are, and the WWE Championships will stay on SmackDown. But I love the design for the new WWE Tag Team Championships because they harken back to the old design for the WWE Tag Team Championships back when it was the WWF Tag Team Championships with like the Hart Foundation and many teams back in the 80s and early 90s. It's definitely got the same look, got the same feel. A little less color, but that's okay. You don't necessarily need the blue and the red in there. But yeah, I just like how it harkens back to that old design. I want to see WWE do more of that. Obviously, the world titles should kind of harken to the World Heavyweight Championship that they've kind of redesigned when Seth Rollins won it, and now is being held by Damian Priest. So I can see kind of how they're going to stick with that kind of design for their world titles over there on Raw. But the WWE titles, I would love to see kind of harken back to the days of old, the days of the classic traditional styles, including this one. I would love to see Triple H go back to the old winged eagle belt. It is the most iconic belt in WWE history. I'd like to see them do that as well. As Cody Rhodes has always stated that this is the title that his father never got to hold, and this is the title, the exact look that when his dad was still wrestling. So it would make sense for Cody to be the one to bring this back. We'll have to wait and see if they actually do that. I just kind of feel like the current design of the WWE Women's title and the WWE Universal, or I guess it's not Universal anymore, the WWE Championship that Cody now holds, it's got that big giant WWE logo on it, which, don't get me wrong, it was a lot better than like the spinner belt and things like that back in the day. But I just feel like it's time for an upgrade, or a reimagining, as it were, to go back to the days of old that I grew up with, and many fans did as well. And it would just harken back to that tradition. And like I said, it would be something that would be new and a little bit more exciting but at the same time, bringing back some of the old. And we're all for nostalgia nowadays, and I think this could be a good thing for the belt overall. We also saw the furthering of this new bloodline, as it were, with Solo Sikoa leading the new bloodline. With Paul Heyman still completely confused about what's going on with Solo Sikoa. Obviously, it sounds like Roman Reigns is going to be out for quite a while now, as well as Seth Rollins. But by the way, I want to give a special shout out to Seth Rollins, who apparently did 2 matches at WrestleMania with a torn meniscus. So, but well wishes for him. I heard he had a surgery this week to get fixed up and ready to come back sometime soon. Maybe a little while, but shout out to him. Shout out to Roman Reigns and The Rock and all the people involved at WrestleMania. But since they're not there right now, Solo Sikoa is now taking charge of the bloodline. And we had Tama Tonga. Obviously, when Solo Sikoa got to SmackDown, he was looking for Kevin Owens, wondering where Kevin Owens was. Well, Tama Tonga found him, beat the ever living crap out of him, apparently, even hit him in his car with a rental car or something, and caused this big blood on his head, which again, WWE is reintroducing blood in some of their storylines, which I'm all for. I always felt like WWE was getting a little too kid oriented. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and you could go PG, but you could also do things like this occasionally, which brings out the element of realness and seriousness to certain angles. And I think in this regard, it makes a lot of sense. Solo Sikoa looks like he's definitely the leader of the new bloodline right now, even though Paul Heyman's definitely got his nerves about it. He'll probably come around at some point before too much longer. Maybe once he gets a phone call from The Rock or something. I don't know. This episode of SmackDown did not really do a great job of furthering exactly what's going on, but just adding more to that mystery. And there's nothing wrong with that. But eventually, we're going to have to start to get some answers. But again, this is a slow build. We don't need to do this right away. So to just say, hey, here's what's going on 2 weeks in is a little bit premature. So I like how they're dragging it out a little bit. We'll see where this goes. But yeah, it looks like as of right now, again, Solo Sikoa, and they're taking this very seriously. And I would not be surprised if we see Jacob Fatu this week on SmackDown during the draft edition. We'll just have to wait and see. They're definitely going to be getting all these different Samoan legacy members out from the independents and bringing them in. We got Tama Tonga. What about Tonga Loa, his brother, and even their brother, Tama and Tonga Loa, also have a third brother in Hikuleo, much like the Usos are brothers with Solo Sikoa. So you can bring them in. There's all sorts of guys you can bring in from the independents who either at least appear to or directly are related to the bloodline to have the two feuding bloodlines possibly going into Survivor Series and maybe even SummerSlam or even WrestleMania next year with Roman Reigns and The Rock probably returning by then. So yeah, this could be a lot of fun. And with Jimmy Uso also being ousted here by Solo Sikoa, we still don't know what's going to go on there. They're obviously going to probably build that with Jay. Maybe we'll get some answers in the draft. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts right now in WWE, but it's also adding that element of unpredictability, which I very much enjoy. So good work all the way around here when it comes to the new bloodline. SmackDown this week didn't really have a whole lot of relevance to it outside of what I've already mentioned, but the main event definitely was interesting to say the least when it comes to the WWE Women's Championship match. Naomi challenging Bayley, the newly crowned WWE Women's Champion. Um, this is kind of something that Vince McMahon used to do. And to be honest, these 2 episodes of WWE this week that had me kind of scratching my head on a couple instances. We'll get into more of that when we get into Monday Night Raw. But this one especially, we had a long match between Naomi and Bayley. Things were going great, but then kind of in Vince McMahon fashion, uh, this match was kind of ended due to a DQ when Tiffany Stratton got involved. I mean, obviously we saw Damage Control in the crowd, and we saw Bianca and Jade obviously kind of watching on as well, kind of keeping an eye on the title situation here, no doubt. But Tiffany Stratton, obviously WWE feels like they've got something with her coming up from NXT. She has a great moonsault, by the way, where she spring markers off the bottom, the middle, and the top rope to perform a moonsault. Very well executed, and it's very, very beautiful. But they obviously had Tiffany Stratton lay out Naomi and Bayley both to end this show. But I just don't like the aspect that we go through like 2 commercial breaks with a big main event, never not to get a winner. That just feels like something that Vince used to do all the time. I don't like when we don't get winners, and if it just feels like it wastes the audience time and the people who watch at home's time. So I wish that they hadn't done that, and you could have had Tiffany Stratton, or come in here and attack them after Bayley retained her title or something. But I guess they just didn't want to pin Naomi. I understand that too. You could do it occasionally. It's not that big a deal if you do it every so often. I just don't want to see WWE start to make a habit of it because WWE under Vince McMahon did that all the time. I don't think Hunter's going to do that, but just pointing it out here that's something I probably would have criticized under the previous administration. So we'll see where they go with this. But they obviously love Tiffany Stratton. So Can't wait to see where they go with her, and we'll see what they do. Probably going to be the next challenger for Bayley's WWE Championship, probably at Backlash. Of course, a lot of talk after SmackDown and even during SmackDown was the fact that WWE released about 5 talents during SmackDown, and then at the beginning of the week here, they released Cameron Grimes. During SmackDown, they released Xia Li, Indus Sher, including Veer and Jinder Mahal. So there were some people who were criticizing WWE here, especially before Cameron Grimes got released, of releasing people of color, saying that it's kind of racist. I wouldn't go that far. The people they released, they were not utilizing. And not that's not to take away from their talent or anything like that. I'm not criticizing the wrestlers, but it was just one of those deals where and I hate that WWE or AEW or any company has to let go of anybody. We don't want to see anybody lose their jobs here on this channel or anything like that. But I just feel like maybe the accusations of racism to WWE was maybe a little overblown when it comes to that sort of thing. I mean, Jinder Mahal, a lot of fans. I mean, yeah, you're complaining that he's being let go as like some of these people, but then you complain when they're on your television. So it's like you want them to keep paying them for doing nothing, and that's not the way business works. I'm sure these people will find a place on the independent scene. There's other places to go besides WWE at this point, and Cameron Grimes in particular, I think is now that one I would put more on WWE because they brought him up to the main roster. Vince McMahon fumbled the ball with him there. He was great at NXT, especially with the $1 Million Championship feud he had with Ted DiBiase kind of being his mentor and stuff. That was outstanding. So anybody who picks up, was it Trevor Lee, I guess is his name. He might not go. He obviously won't be going by Cameron Grimes if he goes to AEW or wherever it might be. But there's a lot of different places you could go now, so it's not going to be a total loss. This is an opportunity for these people who've been let go to do like what Drew McIntyre did, kind of do what Cody Rhodes did, reinvent themselves on the independent season, then come back to WWE or wherever they want to go, even stronger, and then they could possibly be booked to the top, like they've been dreaming about for all these years. But unfortunately, it's just sad to hear anytime that it happens. But in some of these cases, I feel like WWE was just kind of trimming the fat a little bit, probably making business moves. So I think maybe the accusations, like I said, was a little overblown. But we'll see what happens with these people. Hopefully, they'll be able to find good work, and I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, and that's why a company like AEW being business is a good thing for the industry. It creates more opportunities for those who are let go by WWE. Because let's imagine AEW was not in operation at this point. There'd be places to go, but little less notoriety. I mean, you could go to TNA or New Japan or Mexico, but AEW provides another legit option out there in America, so that's a good thing. So for those of you who are hoping AEW dies a little bit, dial back a little bit on the tribalism and understand that this will also provide opportunities for those that WWE did let go. Finn Balor took to social media and he said, "I would like to take this moment to say thank you to WWE for 10 incredible years. And after much thought and consideration, I have decided that now is the right time to say I ain't going nowhere." So kind of kind of played with the crowd a little bit, kind of did a little bit of a troll job there, acting as if he might be moving on. But Finn Balor appears to be sticking around. I don't know exactly what that means for the Judgment Day moving forward. We've obviously got a lot of teases of division amongst that group, which Finn Balor was not on Monday Night Raw this week, interestingly enough. We'll see why that was maybe moving forward. Maybe he's just taking a time off and getting the contract done, that sort of thing. I don't know. But yes, good to see that he's going to be sticking around. They've been doing a much better job with Finn Balor as of late. Like I said, under the Vince McMahon regime, it was not going so well for Finn Balor, but under the Judgment Day, things have kind of take a turn for the better for him. So I'm glad to see that. So yes, the more people we can sign back to jobs, the better. I imagine WWE will also be re-signing Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, and likely Drew McIntyre here in the coming weeks as well, as their contracts are also coming up either later this spring before the early summer or sometime during the summer. So yes, anytime anybody can re-sign, absolutely thrilled for them. Since I am filming this a day later than I normally would, I'd be a little bit remiss if I did not mention the fact that at NXT Spring Breakin' last night, NXT crowned their new world champion down there. That is Trick Williams, who defeated Ilya Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov made an appearance on Monday Night Raw a couple weeks ago. Could potentially be moving up to the main roster. So if that's the case, it would make some sense to crown a new NXT champion this week. Obviously, it happened right before the draft. So in that case, it appears that to me, the Ilya Dragunov is coming up to the main roster. So Trick Williams obviously is major over. If you watch NXT Stand and Deliver on WrestleMania weekend, you saw how much he's over. I saw the video of when he won the title over Ilya Dragunov, which ironically enough kind of ended in a corner-to-corner standoff and meeting in the middle of the ring, much like Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson at AEW Dynasty this week. very reminiscent of that, I gotta say. Trick Williams is definitely over at NXT. You got to strike while the iron is hot there. So yeah, this makes absolute perfect sense. So good on NXT for making the right move, and can't wait to see what Ilya Dragunov does up on the main roster. So getting into Monday Night Raw this week, the show opened up with Jey Uso out in the ring doing his yeet thing, and Pat McAfee going crazy on commentary. And that, of course, brought out Damian Priest, as these two guys will be facing off one-on-one for the World Heavyweight Championship at Backlash in France. And these two guys traded verbal jabs back and forth, with Damian Priest saying, "You are the first on the list that the machine is going to feed to me." That, of course, led to Jey Uso firing back as he stated, "The only reason you're the leader of the Judgment Day is because Rhea Ripley got hurt. By the way, how is mommy doing? Tell her I said hi. Hey, Chip, you know what that makes you to me now? Dom Mysterio's bitch." So in this verbal exchange between the two competitors, Jey Uso clearly got the better of Damian Priest here, but Damian Priest has got the world title, so that's all that really matters here. But this did a good job, in my opinion, of building a little bit of intrigue for that World Heavyweight Championship match coming up at Backlash. So in that regard, I thought it did its job well. I'd like to see these two kind of get a little bit more personal when it comes to certain things before their title match, but it's a good start, I thought, and we still got a few weeks to go before we get to Backlash here. So I think they're going to do a pretty good job of building this up. So a decent double main event here between Damian Priest and Jey Uso, as well as Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles for that pay-per-view. Obviously, I don't see either of the titles changing hands, like I said. However, this could be a fun match between Jay and Damian. Obviously, a chance for two young guys here to kind of show their stuff and prove the fact that they belong in that main event spotlight. So can't wait to see where they go with it. Next up, we had the World Tag Team Championships being defended with the Awesome Truth, with the Miz and R-Truth versus DIY coming out in their DX stuff with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So yeah, this match, obviously the Awesome Truth retained their championships here, but the real story was kind of after the match, where Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Johnny Gargano went up to shake the hand of the Miz and R-Truth, but Tommaso Ciampa refused to do so out of frustration. So it appears we're going to be possibly seeing a heel turn from Tommaso Ciampa here. This is definitely something we've seen before, especially if you've been watching NXT Black and Gold. You know that Ciampa has a tendency to kind of go heel. So I don't know if we're going to get that again, but I'll tell you right now, Ciampa versus Gargano in NXT was absolutely outstanding. And Ciampa plays an outstanding heel, and that may be kind of where Hunter wants to go back with this. If that's the case, I'm all for it. But in my opinion, if you're going to split the World Tag Team Championships away from the WWE Tag Team Championships like they did at WrestleMania, you've already got a limited amount of tag teams that you could use to challenge for these titles on each brand. Do you really want to be splitting up tag teams at this point? And I'll get into a little bit more of that here in a minute when we get to Imperium. I mean, I guess depending on what the draft does, it might be all right. We'll just have to see what their plans are. But I just feel like breaking up two teams, especially on Raw, might be a bad idea, because you don't want to have two sets of titles and then not have enough challengers. We've had that problem before under Vince McMahon. So I'm hoping that Hunter's got a plan for it in the draft, and we'll see where he goes, and maybe it'll turn out for the best. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, as for the aforementioned Imperium, we got a segment where Gunther returned, basically talking about how he's going to run the gauntlet, so to speak, in the King of the Ring tournament coming up. And I think if he's going to enter the King of the Ring tournament, well, there's your winner. I don't know anybody else who should be beating Gunther in that tournament. He should be the King of the Ring, and that could obviously build him even further down the line to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship, whatever it might be. But yeah, if he's in the tournament, you might as well just skip to the end, because, in my opinion, Gunther is taking that thing very, very easily. This brought out the New Day, who obviously had a match with Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. So it looks like, obviously, after this match, Gunther had seen enough, because Gunther had basically told Ludwig Kaiser, basically to take care of it. And Ludwig Kaiser took out Giovanni Vinci and breaking up yet another tag team, as I said. Or at least it looks like that. This could be, I guess, construed as tough love inside Imperium, but it sounds like this is going to be over. And if this is over, I really feel bad for Giovanni Vinci, because it feels like if Ludwig Kaiser is going to maybe get split up from Gunther in the draft, and you've got each guy going their separate ways, Giovanni Vinci is probably going to be on the cutting block at the next WWE releases and the talent cuts. So that sucks for him if that's the case, because I don't see him getting a singles run on his own. But Ludwig Kaiser, obviously, he has a lot of talent, in my opinion. So yeah, we'll just have to see what they do. But if that's the case, sucks for Vinci. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, this kind of, like I said, bringing up tag teams when you've got two sets of tag titles, it's not a great idea, in my opinion. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. So those criticisms aside, this was a great segment coming up after this with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Obviously, these two guys are friends, bitter enemies in the past. Obviously, and Sheamus basically come out trying to talk, sense into Drew McIntyre. Why he keeps, bringing up CM Punk all the time. He's letting him get in his head, and it's affected him, and that's why he lost the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania after holding it for just 5 minutes. Obviously, Drew McIntyre wasn't having any bit of the advice that Sheamus was giving him here, talking about how Sheamus, loved to talk about how he was doing banger after banger after banger, but then ever since he came back, he's been burger after burger after burger, referencing the fact that he looked a bit overweight. But I tell you right now, a lot of people saying he's overweight online would love to look like Sheamus in real life. Think back to the days of King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant and Big Boss Man. I mean, there were guys who were way bigger. Sheamus is in good shape, all things considered. Yes, he's not got the abs like he once had. Very few of us actually do. Not to mention the fact that Sheamus is getting a bit older, coming off a severe neck injury, probably just had a hard time working out for a long time. Cut the guy a break. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure it's completely obviously been agreed upon by Drew and Sheamus to go at that in each other. Sheamus got a big laugh out of it. I'm sure he saw the memes last week. Everybody called him, imposing him in front of a McDonald's menu and things like that, kind of overblowing him, make him look like he's fatter than he actually was. That's the internet for you. Welcome to 2024. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it appears that these two are going to maybe have a bit of a brawl at Backlash. We can see this fight come down there, which could be a lot of fun. These guys have had great matches in the past, and I can't wait to see what they do here. But it's kind of something I think, again, kind of just to kind of get something for Drew and Sheamus to do, something for Sheamus to do, coming back against a familiar opponent and somebody he trusts in the ring, and then Drew McIntyre to have something to do up until the point either CM Punk returns or he takes the title from Damian Priest, possibly at Clash at the Castle in Scotland. We'll have to wait and see if they decide to pull that trigger, but that's exactly what I would do. So something for these two guys to do. Could be a lot of fun just to watch, so enjoy it while you got it. A lot of this show was centered around the age-old question of why, insert name here, why. So Chad, why Chad Gable, why did you do what you did to Sami Zayn last week after you lost the Intercontinental Championship match on Raw? Obviously, like I said on my weekly recap last week, I hope that they go full force into Chad Gable's heel run here and make him a main eventer a la Kurt Angle. And it appears that's exactly what they're going to do here, as he had the entire Alpha Academy out here with him, with Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxi Dupree. He ran them all down, talking about how, Tozawa always loses all the time. Maxi Dupree is very beautiful, but dumber than a box of rocks, which is a little bit of a fire under her, as a matter of fact, going to that Battle Royal for the main event, as she eliminated Candice and Indy Hartwell in that Battle Royal and tried to even eliminate Nia Jax. Didn't quite happen there. Yeah, and then, of course, he ran down Otis. A lot of, but Chad Gable was great here. Obviously, a lot of people were kind of offended that he was being too mean. But this is wrestling, guys. This is what makes a great heel. This is what a great heel makes here. All right. So trust the process here. Chad Gable, I think, is going to be outstanding going forward. And he renewed his commitment to going after the Intercontinental title. Could be using his cronies here to do that until his cronies finally have enough of him and finally turn on him as well. So that could be a lot of fun to watch as well. So I'm interested to see where they're going with Chad Gable. They're on the right track. He's definitely playing that total douchebag that you want to see a heel do, and he's got the talent to back it up. So I can't wait to see what happens. Go full force with this. He's got the talent to show it, and I think he should be pushed to the moon. After this, there was a match with Ricochet and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and JD McDonough, because apparently Dominic Mysterio is also banged up a little bit here. So I don't know if he'll be taking much time off, but it appears he'll at least be on television. But he had his arm in a sling, much like Rhea Ripley did last week. So, boy, the Judgment Day is just getting all sorts of hurt here. But after Ricochet and Andrade won the match against McDonough and Santos Escobar, we had this, obviously, Damian Priest come out there and destroyed Andrade and Ricochet to make a point to Dominic and McDonough that he doesn't need them, they need him. So again, kind of just establishing his dominance. Where's all the people who were upset that Andrade was being misused in AEW, by the way, who's now doesn't look like he's getting a whole lot better in WWE at this point. We'll see what they do with Andrade, but come on, guys, if you're going to keep that energy for AEW, keep the same energy here for Andrade, all right? But that notwithstanding, we had this moment in the back here where Dominic came face to face with Liv Morgan, and they shared this kind of like angry stare at each other. But at the same time, could Dominic possibly be thinking, well, nothing's working without mommy here? I know it's only been a week, but it's like, and he's kind of been having this stuff with the Judgment Day where he kind of looks like he wants to split from the the faction as it is. Could that be what he's thinking here? And could he possibly even align with Liv Morgan, setting up an interesting dynamic? Maybe he'll help Liv Morgan win the women's world title off of Becky Lynch, setting up that potential return for Rhea Ripley down the line later this year, and then have that whole dynamic of mommy's your boy toy here or whatever from the Judgment Day now aligning with her enemy who's in storyline took her out. That could be interesting going down the line. So I'm preaching patience on this one. We'll see where this goes, but I kind of like the potential tease of that. So we'll see what happens. And as I stated, the main event of Monday Night Raw featured a women's battle royal to crown the new women's world champion here that was vacated by Rhea Ripley due to injury. This took a little bit of criticism online. I mean, like I said, Maxine Dupree looked decent in this match. Nia Jax looked pretty good. But at the very end here was Liv and Becky Lynch, and Becky Lynch eliminated Liv Morgan to be crowned the new undisputed women's world champion here. A lot of people were completely upset at the fact that Liv Morgan didn't win the title here to set up the return for Rhea Ripley. Now, to be fair, guys, this is early on in that process. Rhea Ripley is going to be out for a while, possibly till the very end of 2024, maybe even leading into next year's Royal Rumble. So you got to remember that this is a long time here. Not only that, Becky Lynch is the safe decision by WWE. There's a lot of women on the roster, but not all of them have that gravitas that Becky Lynch has earned and has been deserving of for a long time. She's won the world title before, so WWE knows what they're getting into with her. They don't know how it's going to go with certain people like Liv Morgan. So I think Liv Morgan is going to get the world title before Rhea Ripley comes back. But between now and then, Becky's going to have a little run with this. And apparently, according to reports, Becky Lynch was even scheduled to take some time off after WrestleMania, possibly to be with Seth Rollins as well during his injury. But apparently, plans have changed in that regard because Becky Lynch is now going to be staying on as women's world champion for a little while here. It may not be very long. Maybe she's the transitional champion to get to Liv. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, this is fine in my opinion. She, her and WWE and the booking in general kind of got destroyed online. They were calling her Becky Hogan, booking herself to win the world title all the time. You guys understand that she doesn't have any creative control here, right? She doesn't control the booking. Hunter controls the booking. So to call her Becky Hogan, it's a little bit of a stretch, in my opinion. I understand you want Liv Morgan to be the champion, and you felt like that's the way it should go. But I'm going to say trust the process here a little bit. Wait it out, see what they do. I think Hunter has at least earned enough of our respect and enough of our gratitude over what he did over WrestleMania and the months leading up to it and prior to kind of give him a little bit of our faith here to see where they take this and just calm down. This is not Vince McMahon. And if this was Vince McMahon booking this, I would 100% agree with you, thinking that they totally screwed this up because it does look weird, especially a couple weeks ago when Becky Lynch is literally getting pinned at WrestleMania by Rhea Ripley, and now she's winning the world title just because Rhea's not there. I understand that. And in ways, I understand. I get where you're coming from. I honestly do. But like I said, they're in a tough spot when a wrestler goes down like Rhea Ripley, who they clearly wanted to be like the next Roman Reigns of the women's division to hold that title for a long time. They've got to make a decision, and at this point, this is probably the best decision they could have made with the talent that they currently have on the roster. So give it a little time. Let them build up Liv Morgan here a little bit. See where they're going with Dominic Mysterio and her. And obviously, I do still believe that by the time Rhea is ready to come back, Liv will be your world champion heading into that return, and probably even a few months prior to that. So just we'll see what happens. Everybody just needs to take a breath, chill out, go outside, touch a little grass. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I think it's going to be just fine. But congratulations to Becky Lynch on her seventh World Championship or seventh WWE title, as it were. So, yes, congratulations to the man. And of course, before I leave this episode of the weekly recap here, I want to give a quick reminder too that the WWE draft begins this Friday night on Smackdown on April 26th and will wrap up on Monday Night Raw the following week on April 29th. Also, a little shout out for me personally here on the channel, the Dragon's Den podcast, which we have every Friday night or most Friday nights as it is, unless I got family visiting or I'm traveling to see family or something comes up. We usually do the show on 9:30 on Fridays, but this week in particular, we're going to be probably discussing some of the WWE draft as it will be happening live during our podcast at 9:30 on Friday night. Probably be going into a little bit of the NFL draft as well. So we're dubbing that the NFL and WWE draft edition of the Dragon's Den podcast on the channel. So be sure to check that out live here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. So all in all, WWE was fun this week. Had some issues with it. Didn't further a whole lot of storylines, but we got a return of Gunther. We had some good stuff back and forth between the number one contenders and the world champions, and of course we had some things like that. Some interesting twists and turns. But overall, there were some issues I had. But like I said, nothing outstanding this week. But coming off of WrestleMania, I know the ratings for Monday Night Raw dropped from like 1.8 to 1.5, and it was above 2 million during WrestleMania time. But that's the way it always happens every year. Much like in AEW, the drop in ratings does not mean the company's in a ton of trouble. It's just going to kind of even out a little bit after the biggest show of the year. That's what it usually does. Yes, over year, wrestling in general is down over the last 4 to 5 years, about 600,000 viewers per company. Both companies are kind of struggling about the same overall. But a lot of it's just due to the fact a lot of people don't watch on cable anymore. They watch on YouTube or streaming services or like on Hulu recaps and things that are kind of shortened up because the people's attention spans to sit through a 2 to 3 hour show every single week. And in the case of AEW, WWE, they produce 7 hours of weekly television all weeks without pay-per-views. So it's a lot for people to get invested in. And even me on this channel, as much as I'm doing shows, that's why I've decided to do one weekly show for each company because there's just so much to cover. And the best thing to do, I think, in my opinion, for this channel is to just go over the big stuff that happens on each and every show, each and every week, instead of going over every single detail. Because if that was the case, I'd be here all the time, and I ain't got time for that. I got a life, or at least I like to think I do. But anyway, what do you guys think about WWE this week? Are you guys excited for the WWE draft this weekend? Are you guys excited for WWE Backlash? What did you guys think of WrestleMania? All that. What did you think of Raw and SmackDown this week? Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And until my next video, guys, take care and God bless.